Is Christmas a Christian festival? Traditions, customs, and modified Christianity as did well to put Christ in Christmas. But was he even there? Let's see the stunning answers. The first recorded date of Christmas being celebrated on December 25th was in the year 336 AD. It was during the period of the Roman Emperor Constantine. He was the first Christian Roman emperor. Let's go back to history during the period of the Roman Emperor Constantine. Who was he? Constantine was born around the year 275 AD, almost 3 centuries after Jesus. He worshipped the pantheon. The pantheon meaning all gods, pan for all and theon for gods. He worshipped all the Roman gods as all his predecessors has done, and especially the Roman sun god, Sol Invictus. However, he was traveling to battle his most powerful rival in Italy, Maxentius, at the Tiber River in 312 AD. He had a vision. In that vision, he reported seeing the cross of Christ superimposed on the sun with the words, "In hoc signos vinces." That means, "In this sign you shall conquer." After winning the battle, he became a strong champion of Christianity. Before Constantine, there were severe persecutions going on since the period of Jesus. We read all over the New Testament how the Roman Empire persecuted the early Christians. The church was always under fire. Anyone preaching and practicing Christianity were persecuted and jailed. How did it all get changed? Everything changed after Constantine came to power. Constantine was also the first emperor to adhere to Christianity. He issued an edict that protected Christians in the empire. Constantine's decisions to cease the persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire was a turning point of early Christianity. In 313 AD, Constantine and Licinius issued the Edict of Milan, which made Christian worship a non-criminal activity. The edict stopped the persecutions completely. The emperor became a great patron of the church. All these changes started only after Constantine became the emperor, but still there was pagan worship being practiced for hundreds of years in the Roman Empire, prior to Constantine and even during his period. With the church back in power and popularity, a section of Christianity adopted these pagan festivals and made them Christian festivals. So it would be easy for the Roman people to accept Christianity and still celebrate the festivals of their favorite pagan gods. After Constantine's support, Christianity became very popular, backed by the emperor himself, and many wanted to join this religion just for social status. From that time, the church became totally subverted by politics and self-seeking opportunists. The establishment of Christianity as a state religion became a curse. The services increased in splendor, but were less spiritual and hearty. The forms and ceremonies of paganism gradually crept into the worship. Some of the old heathen fests became church festivals with change of name and of worship. December was a month of celebration and festival to the pagan gods of the Roman Empire. There was this festival which was quite famous. It was the festival to the god of Saturn. The festival was hence called Saturnalia. It was a public holiday throughout the Roman Empire. It was celebrated from 17th to 23rd of December. It was a time of feasting, goodwill, generosity to the poor. The exchange of gifts and the decoration of trees were the main practices of celebrating Saturnalia. The decoration of the trees was the primary practice. Saturnalia was a pagan Roman winter solstice festival. Saturnalia saw the inversion of social roles. The wealthy were expected to pay the month's rent for those who couldn't afford it. Masters and slaves to swap clothes. This festival ended on December 23rd and then was immediately followed by another festival to the sun god Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus soon became the primary pagan god of the Roman Empire. The symbol of Mithra, or the sun god, was engraved onto the Roman coins, and even a temple was built for the sun god in Rome. The images you are now seeing are the symbols of the sun god Sol Invictus, which became the primary symbol of the Roman Empire. When the Roman Empire was declared a Christian empire, they adopted the pagan festival of Sol Invictus, celebrated on December 25th, which is the birth of sun god, and replaced it with the birth of Christ on 25th of December. And the practices of Saturnalia was included in the celebration of Christmas. Hence, two pagan festivals and their practices were clubbed into one event and was Christianized. For the people, nothing changed except the name of the festival. The celebrations were the same, the practices were the same. There was no changes at all. Did you know Jesus was born nowhere near December? His birth is calculated to be somewhere in September. Although the whole world celebrates Christmas as a Christian holiday, including millions of non-Christians, is Christmas really Christian at all? Consider this fact. Look high and low throughout the pages of the Bible. You will find not one word of Christmas being celebrated by any of the followers. It's not even mentioned once. Neither by the Messiah in his 33 years on earth, nor any of his apostles ever observe or celebrate his birthday ever. Not even a New Testament church. Yet on the other hand, the pagan, heathen world observed this day of birth of the sun god for thousands of years before the Messiah was even born. Christianity in Rome was mixed with the pagan religion, and thus, even to this day, some of the pagan symbols are found in the Catholic Church, which adds no meaning to Jesus or to Christianity. The images you see now are from the churches all around the world. But before that, let's look into some of the symbols of the pagan gods which were worshipped before. This was excavated in Hazur in Israel, and this is one of the symbols of Baal. That's the Sumerian god Samesh. And look at his symbol. He's the god of the sun, the moon, and the stars, and he was worshipped in the Canaanite kingdom and the Mesopotamia and all through those regions. Pay attention to the logo, the symbol on his chest. And this is the god of the Philistines, Dagon. We read it in Bible. The names, all these names have been mentioned in the Bible. And this one is quite famous in one incident. If we read in 1 Samuel chapter 5 verses 1 to 5, what happens here is the Philistines captured the ark of God and they took it and kept it in their temple, the temple of Dagon. So let me read that verse. After the Philistines had captured the ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then they carried the ark into Dagon's temple and set it beside Dagon. When the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in its place. But the following morning, when they rose, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. His head and his hands had been broken off, and they were lying on the threshold. Only his body remained. That is why to this day, neither the priest of Dagon nor any other who enter the Dagon's temple at Ashdod step on the threshold. That's why the priest of Dagon used to wear a hat like the shape of a fish with the mouth open, the hat or the mitra. And look, the same similar kind of mitra or hat is worn by the priests. This we all know is the symbol of Sol Invictus. That's the logo of what he's holding on his hand. The staff has a symbol of Sol Invictus. Even the seat of St. Peter's in the Vatican, look at that symbol. One of the famous logo of the Vatican, which should be the name of Jesus, IHS, and the logo around it is Sol Invictus logo. Now that we have seen the symbol on the chest of the Sumerian god, the same symbol is on the priest's mitra and even on his clothes. This is not a cross. Even the same symbol is imposed on what seems to be the image of Jesus. Look behind his head, that halo, it's not a symbol of a cross. And look at that, the symbol of Samash. Vatican is built with the same symbol, same pattern, with the obliques in between. And there are so many verses in the Bible which says, do not set up obliques. God hates them. In Leviticus, in Numbers, in Deuteronomy, you can read it. The obliques is from the temple of Ammon, and now it's in the Vatican City. Could you believe it? Paganism was not defeated by the church. It invaded the church, infiltrated it, and seduced it from within. The professing Christian church became the new face of paganism. Only the names were changed. It is such a danger and detestable thing before God. The primary God of the Roman Empire has its roots deep inside Christianity. Even the Sabbath, which our God said is holy, was changed to Sunday, which is a holy day of Sol Invictus, the sun god. Now, all over the world, Sunday is being the holy day, and people even argue about that. There's no mention of Sunday being the holy day in the Bible. But God has said that Sabbath is a day which is holy unto the God. But it has been changed. Christianity took over the birthday of sun god, the cult of the sun, and transformed it into Christmas Day, the birthday of Jesus the Messiah. It was in reality the birthday of the pagan sun god, worshipped by millions throughout the Roman Empire even before the birth of Jesus. The Bible clearly says in Mark 7, verse 7 to 8, "They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions." That's exactly what we are doing. We have let go of the commandments of God, the commands of God, and we are holding on to human traditions. We've fallen into it. It's been practiced over and over for years together, and we think that it's from God. If it's from God, then why it's not mentioned in the Bible? Well, where did the Christmas tree come from? One of the most pervasive customs of Christmas today is bringing home and decorating of a Christmas tree. Where did this custom come from? Christmas tree originates in some sort of vestige of Teutonic vegetation worship. People in those days would cut tree branches from pine trees and bring it home and decorate it with presents and beautify it. This was part of celebrating the festival of Saturnalia, the god of Saturn. Did you not think for once, what does decorated tree got to do with the birth of Messiah, who was not really born in December in the first place? Tree and birth of Messiah has nothing in common. It is clearly evident that the pagan festival of Saturnalia and Sol Invictus was mixed together with the birth of Christ, making it easy for the pagan worshippers in the Roman Empire to accept Christianity without letting go of their Roman traditions, which they were following back then. The Bible has condemned such acts of Christmas tree because God knew these were the practices of the pagan worshippers who were worshipping and decorating the tree. We can read it in Jeremiah chapter 10 from verses 1 to 5. Hear ye the words which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen, and not be dismayed at the signs of the heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Here comes the interesting part. For the customs of people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. We could clearly see these practices are condemned by God, because He knew back then the tree worship was going on. God knew back then that these pagan practices would soon creep into the churches, would soon creep into the worshippers of the real God. That's why He clearly says here, do not follow their practices. What are we doing here? Doing exactly what they were practicing. There's one more verse. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way. That one line in between is so brilliant. It says, you must not worship the Lord your God in their way. God has told us clearly. And here we are worshipping in the same way. Every church has brought in a Christmas tree and decorated it with lights and decorations, just as the Romans did during the festival of Saturnalia. Christmas is pagan. There's no doubt about it. All the practices seem similar to what we are doing right now. Just the name has been changed. Are we still practicing the same practices of the pagans and worshipping our God? We in this time have to make a decision. Follow the traditions of men or follow the ways of God and the Bible. We in this time have been misled with these practices preached by the preachers, ministers, and our forefathers for 1,700 years. This does not make a practice valid unless it's on the Bible. Back then, the god of Saturn and Sol Invictus were glorified with these festivals, and they loved receiving them. They still love receiving them to this day. Only the names have changed, but the practices remain almost the same. I'm not saying it's wrong to praise and worship Jesus on 25th. We can do that any day. All I'm saying is look at the practices and customs we do to worship Jesus. We worship the Messiah in their ways and their practices. Nothing has changed. Remember the verse, you must not worship the Lord your God in their way. Just take, for example, the festival of Halloween. You know how it all started? It was actually a Celtic traditional festival which is more than 2,000 years old. Back then it was called Samhain. On this day, druids told fortunes and consulted the demons regarding the future. Witchcrafts were practiced more on this day than any other day. People walked around dressed like demons as they believed that this day the demons and the dead spirits were allowed to roam on the earth freely. Just imagine if some Christian ruler comes up and changes Halloween celebration day into a day of celebration for Christ, but follow the same practices of dressing up like demons, etc. Does this make it a festival for Christ? Probably it may after 100 years of practicing and preachings in the church. But would Jesus really be celebrated on that day if we swap it with Halloween? Just the theme is changed. Will Jesus still be glorified? I bet Satan will still receive the celebrations even when it is renamed into some new name and theme. This is exactly what happened to Christmas. Saturnalia and Sol Invictus are still receiving their share of being glorified with the same customs till this day on December 25th. It is so disturbing to know that the symbols are still found in Roman churches. Do you really want to believe in an organization known for changing God's ways and as symbols of Baal, Shamash, and Sol Invictus in their place of worship? And do you still want to follow the festivals which they introduce and cunningly link it to Christ even when it's not in the Bible? It seems like a perfect plot to trick people into worshipping the pagan gods. It sounds very dodgy, isn't it? I don't even have to answer that. The facts are laid bare, right in front of you. It's for you to decide who to please, the traditions of men or God. There are so many things in the Bible that God told us to follow, like humbleness, loving God more than everything, and treating people right, loving your neighbors. We have to do all these things to become His children. We put far less effort into following these commandments of God, which has been said multiple times in the Bible over and over again. But it's so easy for us to follow the traditions of men, even if it's not mentioned once in the Bible. Not even once. When the Christianized Roman Empire tried to put a stop to the pagan worships and festivals, the people were sad. The people couldn't take it because this is something they were doing year after year. They were waiting for this festival period. So when the Roman emperor or the empire stopped these kind of practices, they couldn't take it. They felt lost. Just like how the Christians of today would feel dejected and sad, giving up the Christian celebration, which is for Sol Invictus. You can argue saying that, are we not just glorifying Jesus and celebrating His birthday? The answer is no. The date has a dark history. The practices tie up to pagan festivals, decorating the trees, hanging the Star of Remphan. If you're curious about the Star of Remphan, you should read Acts chapter 7, verses 43. Read it and see what the Star of Remphan means. The same kind of star we hang in a house celebrating Christmas. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Nothing ties up. The Christmas tree, the Santa Claus, the birth of Jesus, nothing ties up. But yet we keep doing it. It's 100% pagan festival. Traditions of men, not the ways of God. Nothing makes sense from a biblical point of view. Nothing connects. The early Christians never celebrated this. It's not even mentioned in the Bible. The choice is yours. Who do you want to please? The traditions of men or God? The choice is definitely yours. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe and like my page to stay connected. Bye.